A notice of the...
I think we got it. There you go.
Okay, keep going.
A notice of the meeting was prominently posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 2nd, 2018. A copy of the notice was faxed to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk on said date.
Mrs. Kraus, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Coordinator?
Present.
Councilmember Lees?
Here.
Councilmember Sieber,
Here.
Councilmember Vanchieri?
Present.
Council President Scoba.
Present. Can I have a motion and a second to open to the public
So moved.
for comment for general matters only?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion say nay. Motion carries. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so to the Council President. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the Council President.
As you approach the podium, if you're here on behalf of an association, please let the council and mayor know that. If you're here as an individual, you don't need to do that. The podium is open.
Nice to see so many familiar faces. I am here on behalf of the...
I'm sorry, your name and address, please.
Okay. My name is Kathy Albanese. I reside at 85 Houston Road, Little Falls. I have been a resident of Little Falls for over 48 years, raised our family here. I am representing the Great Notch Association of Little Falls, of which I am a member and officer. I would like to read the petition that we're bringing before the mayor and committee. It reads as follows. We, the undersigned residents of Houston Road, Township of Little Falls, State of New Jersey, do hereby petition the mayor and township officials to authorize and approve the installation of speed bumps on Houston Road in order to curtail the excessive speed of cars and trucks for the safety of residents, pedestrians, and motorists. And I have the original petition, which I can give to you after or now, whatever.
I'm going to switch chairs with Councilwoman Coordinator at this time because we have a conflict, being that I'm also involved in this association. So Councilwoman Coordinator will take this portion of the meeting.
All right. I just want to give a little background. Houston Road is a residential street in the Great Notch area of Little Falls. It has several curves or bends on the road and no sidewalks at all. It connects Francisco Avenue and Long Hill Road. The greatest curve or bend is where Kingwood Drive intersects Houston Road. It is a blind curve. Drivers coming and going in either direction have no visibility of the rest of the road when approaching this blind area. Many people walk on Houston Road, weather permitting, and children ride bikes. And with the oncoming vacation coming up, we will see more young children riding bikes on Houston Road. So the street is shared by drivers, pedestrians, bikers, and the residents. There's been a noticeable increase in traffic on Houston Road in recent years, accompanied by an increase in the speed of the traffic. There are more cars on the road in Little Falls generally, I think. Population of the university has grown and more cars are in our area. We see increased traffic on Francisco Road approaching the Ridge Road traffic light and increased traffic on Long Hill Road at the Notch Road light. There's always traffic coming from and going to Route 46 at this area. This increased traffic, compounded by bridge work and road work at various times, has brought more and more traffic onto Houston Road. Our street has become a convenient way to get somewhere else at increased speeds. It is a cut-through road, unlike the quiet residential street that it used to be. Whether walking, riding bicycles, or pulling in and out of driveways on Houston Road, there is clearly a danger on this street. It's an accident waiting to happen. Getting in and out of driveways varies as to the location of the driveway, but it's very dangerous. You pull out and the car at the end of the road doesn't see you, and if they're speeding at excessive speeds, they're right on top of you as you're pulling out or pulling in. Our purpose is to prevent such an accident. Speed bumps would certainly reduce the speed of cars and possibly deter some of these cut-through drivers. We had several instances as I was talking to people about the petition who have said they would be trying to make a turn into their driveway and the car would be right on their tail. That's how quickly they are using our street. And I also had my own personal incident where I was coming off of Francisco, turning left onto Houston. My home is on the left side of the street toward the other end of the block, and I had my left blinker on. Crazy driver rode on my left, past me as I want to make a left-hand turn. It's just really dangerous. We recognize that emergency vehicles would have to use Houston Road on occasion to respond to emergencies. The amount of time taken to travel over the speed bumps, we believe, would be negligible when compared to a serious injury or even a loss of life by not having them there at all. So the Great Notch Association respectfully requests that action be taken in answer to our petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Albanese. Can you give the petition to Mr. Cuccia? And you can, if you wouldn't mind to stand at the podium.
Certainly. There are 3 pages.
Well, I want to thank you for coming forward and thank you for really being part of a community organization. It really helps our town when residents get involved. And I certainly understand your issue. Councilman Vancheri is now the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and last year I was the chairperson. And I will tell you that we understand that speeding through the township is a big issue. There is a lot more traffic. We really can't do that. That's to your point, MSU and the area in general, just not Little Falls, getting more populated. However, that doesn't mean that we can't try to address something about speeding. And we have been having meetings with the county in order to see what are some of the ways we can alleviate, including, even though by law on local streets it's 25 miles per hour, we are working to have every place 25 miles per hour, because if they're going 40 miles an hour off of Ridge Road, then onto Francisco and go onto your road, they're going to continue at 40 miles per hour. I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Vancheri and then also get some input from our chief of police, because there are several remedies in addition to speed bumps. I'm kind of neutral about speed bumps. There's pros and cons, but I think that we should be really looking at everything and making sure we get the best resolution. So, Councilman Vancheri.
Hi. So one of the things that we've been working on from a transportation committee standpoint was to work with Chief Post as well as Corporal John Mancato, who's the traffic officer in town, to identify spots around town where there has been an increase in speeding. And we've been doing that through our committee, but also feedback from residents, and even on social media. One of the Little Falls pages has been a forum for residents to share the different streets. So based on that, I've been working behind the scenes with the Corporal Mancato to figure out a plan. And what we're gonna do this month is sit down with Chief Post, our business administrator, our head of DPW, as well as the mayor and council president to really map out what we can do from a town street standpoint, as well as address some of the lingering issues on the county side. I do know, and I'll let the chief talk about this more, we did share feedback about Houston, and there have been some opportunities for patrol cars in the area, so I'll let him touch on that. But just know that we're trying to do it, and the challenge has been with apps like Waze and other different ones to get people around, it's become cut through on certain streets. I think a bunch of people here can tell you their streets have also been impacted. So we're trying to figure out the best solution. One is the 25 mile per hour speed change. We're waiting on the county to officially confirm that, but that would help, but also possibility of some more signage to let people know, especially with some of the roads where Corporal Mancado's looked at where there's a bend. There needs to be maybe some additional signage. So that's something.
It's very large.
Yes, yeah.
That particular.
Yeah, there's a few streets in town that are like that because we've been working on behind the scenes a report to say, like, here's the areas and these are some of the recommendations. And even in some areas, it's adding stop signs, additional signage. So there's a lot of things we're trying to figure out to alleviate some of the problems. And with the current construction, it doesn't help too because a lot of people don't want to sit on 46, of course, and they find ways to get around through our town, unfortunately. So I'll defer to the chief. I'll let him talk on a couple things as well. That's all right.
What would you like me to talk about?
Just about Houston, with some of the concerns.
My understanding, there's some complaints about Houston Road. We've been sitting up there several times. It's on our list. It's one that we've already been targeting. Quite frankly, recently we had a resident stopped and issued a summons for speeding, a Houston Road resident. But we're up there.
So are you doing a traffic study in that area?
No.
Could we initiate a traffic study for that street to see, just to get a handle on the frequency of cars? I know when we had done a traffic study, or you had done a traffic study on another street, and it was, we were all so sure that there was constant speeding, and then when we did the traffic study, there was some speeding and it was during certain hours. So in order to get a better handle on it, but can you also share a little bit how you feel about speed bumps? Because I know there's pros and cons to them, and one of the things, I mean, I live on Upper Mountain Avenue. I'm one of the last houses in Little Falls. So there's speed bumps. I don't really mind them. You do hear them, but after a while you forget about them. So far, it has not stopped the speeding on that street, but that's also a really, really busy street. The one thing I do observe, and Montclair does have a lot of speed bumps throughout the town, is the look of the speed bumps, and if you have time to kind of drive through the town, of what happens to the look of the speed bumps and the look of the street after a while. Safety, of course, is our first priority, but you also how your neighborhood looks. Are there other remedies besides a speed bump that would help to curtail the speeding and some of the possible reckless driving, Chief?
Well, let me just interject here for a second because I don't want. I think the chief's role is really in enforcement of the laws that the council and the state enact. Obviously, if the law is 25 miles per hour, he would obviously send out his various patrols to enforce, and if there were things like speed bumps or speed tables, you've seen those in Montclair, rumble strips, things like that, that's obviously something that would be technically really outside of the chief's purview because it's not necessarily something to enforce, it's a traffic calming or remedying situation. So obviously whatever you put into force, the chief would enact. So when the chief doesn't necessarily, not trying to say the chief doesn't have an opinion, I'm sure the chief has many opinions, but on this issue, it's really something that, obviously the chief would enact, act in response to whatever the enactments of the council's ordinance are. I don't know if Mr. Cucci has anything to add on that.
In the past, we've had the engineer prepare the standards so that we could look at the standards based upon the road, because there are roadway standards in the state as to whether or not speed bumps are appropriate or not. We can certainly do that again, and then in conjunction, the chief can do a traffic speed study, and then we can compare them together and see if anything fits.
So as a follow-up, we could ask the police department to do a traffic study there so we get a handle on the traffic and the speed, and then I would then, Councilman Vanchery, if you would follow up in terms of what the results are and the different options for alleviate the issue. Some of them, there may be some options that we haven't thought of before, but the first step is to really get a handle on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Arnold Karatkin, 181 Longhill Road, Little Falls, New Jersey, and I'd like to thank the Great Knots Association. As a cyclist on Houston, I appreciate their concern. And when talking about remedies, I'm not sure what the difference is, and I'm glad that Mr. Cucci mentioned rumble strips, but I'm not sure what's the distinction, I'm not asking for an answer now, between traffic bumps and speed bumps and speed humps. Because I was ironically in Montclair today, and there were a number of residential streets where it called it street humps that were much lower than what I think is a street traffic bump. So something to look at and consider. And also, in looking at it, perhaps to survey or ask Montclair council persons how people on residential streets responded and reacted to the proposal to put those devices in place. But aside from that, thank you. I have several questions. One is, between May 21st and June 3rd, the town engaged in a click it or ticket program. I wonder how many warnings or citations were issued by the Little Falls Police Department. I'm curious as to whether the officers who were assigned to this program did it as part of their regular duty, or was it on an overtime assignment? And if it was on an overtime assignment, how much did it cost the township?
So let me clarify, you're looking for our, is it called Click It?
Ticket.
Ticket, or Click It? Click It or Ticket, I think it is, from May 21st to June 3rd. How many of those summonses we're giving out, and if our department was on regular time or overtime, and we'll find those answers and review them and get back to you.
You don't have them now?
I won't have them in front of me at this time, Arnie.
My second item, and it relates
Yes.
perhaps to the Transportation Committee. Are there any updates regarding traffic accident reports, specifically regard to reports of traffic accidents along Francisco Avenue at the intersections of Wilmore and Cedar Grove Roads, as well as any other township intersection with 5 or more reported accidents during any given calendar year?
So to your first question regarding the intersection at Wilmore Road and Cedar Grove Road, correct, on
That's part of
Francisco?
it. Correct.
That currently is being under review. To your specific question, were there more than 5 accidents per calendar year?
Correct.
At that intersection or other intersections?
Well, it's first because it came up via the Transportation Committee that there can be some preventive measures done at an intersection if there are 5 or more accidents in a calendar year. My question, therefore, is, if you're looking at Wilmore and Cedar Grove and Francisco, are there other intersections in town that have had 5 or more accidents in any given calendar year?
Right. So specifically to that first intersection, I could probably tell you there's been already probably 5 or more accidents at that particular intersection. The reason why I know is I live up the road from there. Councilman Vancherry's been working with the county on that particular intersection. Do you want to comment a little bit on that?
Corporal Mancato and I have been playing phone tag with Chuck Silverstein from the county. There's a couple additional requests that he's asked of the Little Falls Police Department that the chief and Corporal Mancato are working out. So other than that, I mean, he has all the information, he has the data that he needs. It's just there's some extra legwork that needs to be done by the police department.
But will that include all intersections, or you're just looking specifically at Francisco and Wilmore Road?
He's just looking at Francisco, Wilmore, that intersection. That's what we're focused on in Cedar Grove
Well, I
Road.
sort of question that in terms of having an adequate response to traffic problems in town.
Right.
There could be other intersections that have 5 or more accidents.
That I would have to defer to the police to get that information to you.
I've
Arnie.
requested that under 2 police chiefs, and I've gotten no response. And I'm sort of amazed that when Browardtown Road project came up, the county came up with a report of accidents over the last 5 or 10 years. I don't understand why our town can't get it for roads within the township.
So you're asking for the data of accidents at
Any intersection
Any
in
intersection.
town that had 5 or more accidents in a given calendar year.
Okay, we'll look into that and get back to you.
Okay. I'll be waiting.
Okay, you're welcome.
Question 3. What's the status of the proposed school number 1 parking lot? Is it still on the agenda, or is it off the table?
The School 1 parking lot is the mayor could comment on this, but as far as we know, it's between the councilors having discussion. Mayor, do you have any other discussion you want to add to that?
I mean, at this point, it's not something that's necessarily being streamlined in any sort of fashion. Early on in the season, it was something that, if it was something that I think was going to happen, we were looking to have already had it almost ready for construction. At this point, it's certainly not on the table for completion this year. It'd throw off way too much. So right now, I don't know that it's something that's necessarily being considered. Again, the council would ultimately have to approve it. I don't believe there's anything in the immediate future whatsoever to address that. So at this point, it's certainly, at a bare minimum, being tabled.
Okay. And my last question is, are there any updates regarding the proposed municipal parking lot on Stanley Street with respect to the purchase of additional homes and the PNC parking lot?
At this point, as far as the PNC parking lot, I don't think we can make any comment. There's nothing pending. As far as Stanley Street, homes, are you?
The mayor at one point gave a report about possible municipal parking along Stanley Street. So the town has already purchased 60 Stanley Street, the homes. There was discussion to acquire the house to the left of that and then the PNC parking lot. So my question is, what's the status of the proposal to possibly buy those 2 other pieces of land?
I don't know if we can comment. At this point, nothing.
So it's on hold?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Renee Shapiro, Little Falls ABC. Just inviting everybody.
I'm sorry, Ms. Shapiro. You know the rules. You got to give the address.
163 East Main Street.
Thank you.
I'll get it right. Don't worry. We invite everyone to the marketing concert starting on June 28th. We have a lot of new vendors, different kinds of foods. We hope to all, see you there. June 28th also opens up for the kids, and we have Chelsea the Clown coming for the park area to do a special show with them and to work with them, so that's going to be really great. So basically just wanted to invite you. Heads up to Phil, we need pails. Heads up to that we need signs up that there's no parking between 3 and 9 starting on June 28th. So we thank you and hope to see you there.
We thank you for the good work that you do with the ABC and the concerts. I know they're well attended. While you, at the request of the mayor, Mr. Simone and myself did an inspection of Wilmore Road to see if we can accommodate handicap parking, which we will start to look into and also enact on. I think it was located that we have 2 spots that we can have handicap parking for the park there.
In answer to that, if anyone is handicapped or for any reason can't walk there at that area or a block or 2, of course the blocks do fill up. At 6:30 we close the street, and anybody with a problem, the police, well, some of them knew and know that we permit cars to come and double park in the area right by the gazebo, and we have them escorted out first so they can move their car so it doesn't interrupt anything, but no one should feel they can't come to the park because we do open that street up for anyone with a problem.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward?
Dorothy O'Hare, Turnberry Road. I would like an update. I had spoken to Mr. Cuccio and to the mayor about the culvert on Wilmore Road that is terribly eroded. And somebody was supposed to get a hold of the county and to see, because I tried, my son tried, and we got nowhere.
Okay.
So we need somebody with a little more clout.
Okay. I know this was looked into on behalf of Mr. Simone and the mayor. Would you like to comment, Mayor?
Sure. I believe Mr. Simone, after one of the last storms, went down there and took a look at the culverts. Everything seems to be completely clear right now and empty. All of the contributaries to the river, as far as we can see, and as far as the ones that we can maintain, are free and clear of any debris, and they are open and flowing properly. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Simone, are there any that were blocked? Any of the contributaries?
The contributory coming down, I mean, it is very shallow, so when it rains hard, it does come up high. But I did take some good pictures inside the pipe. The pipe is totally solid and sound. It just appears that when the water is leaving the culvert, that it is eroding out in front of it, but the actual structure itself seemed to be sound from the pictures I took.
Well, it wasn't a blockage problem. It is the erosion problem. Those two very, very heavy rainstorms we had a month or so ago actually picked up the boulders and moved them. And there's one tree, and it eroded the bank to the point where there's one tree that's kind of hanging over like this. And I mean, something has to be done, because there's a difference of a good 4 feet that has disappeared. And if you want to go over and take a look, I'll meet you there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And
So I'm very familiar with what it is that you're referring to, but I think you also know that solving the erosion of the Peckman River is something far beyond anything me or these council members can do. And you know that because we are working with the Army Corps of Engineers on a plan to do this, something that, as you know better than anyone, they've been working on for almost a century now. So with that understanding, again, we are working with them to try to alleviate some of the issues
what happens
caused by
in the meantime? Do we just sit and do nothing?
No, Mr. Hare, again, you are
and let
very...
a house disappear?
You're also very aware that we are currently in the process of obtaining a track hoe to remove the debris ourselves. It's something that you were instrumental in. You know this, and the only reason I'm happy to explain it again, but I feel that this is something that you know as well as I do.
Absolutely.
But I'm happy to go through it. As you're aware, we are currently in the process of purchasing a track hoe with Woodland Park in conjunction with them, and we have agreed to go in 50-50 on anything that the grant in which you are instrumental in obtaining does not cover. So, again, this is something that
Has that been ordered? Is the grant?
There was a last change that was being submitted, and we are currently waiting for approval from, is it DOT? DEP, because the restrictions on the current grant were that we could only use the track hoe in the Peckman and Passaic rivers. Passaic was permitted? Only in the Peckman and Passaic rivers, which we understand it's to be used for, but it did not allow us to use it in the contributaries to these streams as well. So we were looking for a little bit of further expansion on what is permissible under the grant. Once we get that approval, we can then move forward with the purchase of the track hoe. Again, Little Falls and Woodland Park has agreed to share in any of the costs not covered by the grant. So we are currently waiting. As you're also aware, Woodland Park is spearheading and taking the lead on the purchase of this. So they deal with the day-to-day information. We do receive it as it is sort of given to them. So they would have a little bit more information than we do, although as far as I know, and the last that I've heard from them, we're still waiting for approval from the DEP to expand the purpose of the grant.
Well, I mean, like I said, as you said, I've been involved in this since the year 2000, so I am well aware of all these things. It's just that the whole thing now is at a stalemate, and
Talk to the federal government. That's again the federal government, and Woodland Park has taken the lead on that. And as everything comes down to, it's always a funding issue with the federal government.
Here we go
and
again.
we are.
Ms. O'Hare, I know we addressed the issue, so.
I'm talking about now.
Okay.
The Army Corps of Engineers project, 10B.
Okay.
Okay, which seems to be now the national plan. And that plan does not cover erosion at all, not one bit. I called the Army Corps of Engineers. And I asked, and I wrote a draft of a letter, and I sent one to Mayor Damiano and one to Mayor Kaczmarek. I didn't want to just mail it, not that I needed permission, because I don't, but I just wanted them to see what, and I didn't hear anything back. So I finished the letter, I rewrote it, and I sent it. And it was the only letter that the Army Corps received. And June 6th was the cutoff date, which I didn't know that there was a cutoff date. So they have my letter, and with my letter I sent 3 attachments. One, the tour that we went on of Little Falls, all the trouble spots. And the other one was a letter that Chairman Agnoli wrote in a couple of years ago. And that was when they were going to do just the culvert and nothing else. And the third one was a June 14th, 2008 letter that also covered the whole problem. So I sent these 3 attachments with my letter so that the Army Corps knows that we've been preaching erosion control from the day one. And they don't seem to get to that, and they cannot give us 10B as a solution because it does not address erosion.
Council President, just to be
I'm
clear.
sorry, I know I get crazy about this.
Before, and we appreciate your concerns, there are concerns, and we know the hard work you put into this, but I want the mayor to tell the public what the TRACO is, since it's been brought up, what that piece of equipment is.
Absolutely, Council President. And just also to be very clear, Ms. O'Hare's letter was not the only letter sent to the Army Corps of Engineers. Mayor Kaczmarek and I both authored 2 separate letters that were also sent to the Army Corps of Engineers well before the June 6th deadline that the Army Corps of Engineers asked for a response by. I, in my letter, explicitly stated all of the issues that I personally had in conjunction with discussions that I have had with each one of you over a period of time, outlining the issues that I believe 10B had and the concerns and the further expansion that I believed was necessary in 10B. So to say that the only letter that was sent to the Army Corps of Engineers was authored by Ms. O'Hare is incorrect, because Mayor Kaczmarek and I had both sent a letter somewhat mirroring the requests that they made in outlining what issues we had.
But those
with respect to the TRACO,
Ms. O'Hare, let the mayor finish, please.
with respect to the TRACO is essentially it's an excavator that will be used to remove the shoals and the debris that's caused by all of the erosion from the flash floods. One of the major issues, and I believe the last time that a cleanup was actually done of the Peckman River to any significant extent, minus some desnagging, was over 20 years ago. Is that correct, Phil?
No.
Probably 99 was
No,
the
he
biggest
did
one.
it.
Was okay.
The biggest one.
So the last major removal
Major
was back
one
so
was
almost
in
20 years ago now.
Floyd. There was one done after that, but it wasn't to that extent.
Right, and in the meeting, we met with some of the engineers, we were with Woodland Park, and we discussed the TRACO again, which is a large excavator that will remove all of the shoals, and the process in which that we will need to go through to remove the debris, typically rocks and sand and things like that. That debris will then have to be dumped into an area either owned by the municipality or somewhere else that we have permission to do it, or in Woodland Park, where we will need to allow the debris to completely dry. Once it's dried, we can then, several days or weeks later, reload trucks with that and ship it off and cart it off to an area where, again, there may be an expense associated with the dumping of this debris, whether it be rocks and sand or what have you, and that is the process. But again, the TRACO will be used to remove the debris and the shoals and the rocks from the Peckman River.
Thank you, Mayor, for that clarification on the machinery. Ms. O'Hare, do you have any other questions?
I just have an additional
Go ahead.
question. There is a severe erosion problem at Tulip Meadows, where I live. And a year ago, March, we had permission. Mr. Tucci is the manager of Cedar Grove, but he's also the head of the Passaic Valley Sewage Commissioners. And Brian Davenport of the Sewage Commissioner went down there. I'm not sure if it was Nick Agnoli that went with him, but somebody else went with him, and they came back and they said, oh my God, this is a public safety issue. Something has to be done about this immediately, because the bank is underroaded, so if someone were to come and stand on top, they could fall into the rocks below. And then we had no more flood board meetings, and nothing happened. But we did have Mr. Tucci's permission a year ago. So I don't know. I'm willing to follow up.
Would you just want to clarify Mr. Tucci's permission to do what?
To go down with the machine and rectify the situation. And Nick Agnoli has the permit by rule all done. But it can't be handed in because we don't have a final disposition of who is going to do the work, and that's part of the permit by rule application.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for this council?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time this evening. The podium is open. Seeing no one else come forward, can I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to approve resolutions A, B, and C at this time?
So moved.
Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll. I'm sorry, second?
Second.
Yes.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Lees? Councilmember Sieber, Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Does the council have any questions concerning what we just voted on?
I just wanted some clarification on B as to why that film permit actually had happened already.
Occasionally, when we have filming companies who are on a deadline and they are working completely off the street in a building, we try to accommodate them as best we can, and we ask the council to ratify the actions. They've provided all of what's required in the ordinance, and there was no activity on the street that required any police presence or fire or anything like that. So those are the times that we would do that.
Thank you.
Does the council have any other questions regarding the three resolutions?
Yeah, I have a question for I believe Mr. Simone probably. So in the resolution of award to Sanitation Equipment Corp. For the purchase of a recycling packer truck, is that an additional new truck that we never had before, that type of truck? Or is it we needed a new truck, and if so, do we get to recycle the parts, or what do we do with the old truck?
This new sanitation, the purchase of the recycling packer truck is a replacement truck. It's going to be replacing a 1998 Mack truck with a Leach 2R2 body that's now 20 years old. The truck has seen better days, the body's rotten out. There wasn't worthwhile to try and put money into it. Besides, the new truck will be automatic. The old truck was a stick shift. And once the new truck comes in, the old truck will be taken out of service and then put up to auction, so we can try and get some money back on it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Does the council have any other questions regarding the resolutions? Mayor?
Actually, most of the issues that come under the report this evening, I'm going to defer to our administrator, Mr. Cuccia here. He will be able to better explain all three of these items.
Mr. Cuccia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. We're requesting for the next meeting your consideration in resolution, a Chapter 159 resolution. That is a resolution to add a revenue and an expenditure to the 2018 budget. We did receive Municipal Court Alcohol Education Rehabilitation and Enforcement Grant in the amount of $10,252.54. So we'd like to add that to the budget at the next meeting by resolution. Also for next meeting, we're requesting that you consider for approval tax refunds. Some have to do with regular tax overpayments. People are just overpaid, and some have to do with the decisions made by the state tax court on judgments. The amount for the overpayments is $1,473.55, and the refunds due to state Tax court judgment is $8,586.04. And then finally, we're requesting a resolution to be approved at the next meeting to extend the due date for the third quarter tax payments because of the way the 10th falls and the weekend. We'd like to extend it and make it convenient for everyone to pay in the grace period up until the 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Kusia. Have a motion and a second to open to the public for agenda items only.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address
I'm
the
sorry.
township?
Can we back up a second? Let's just kill that. Council discussions. Councilman Vanchery?
Sure. There's some updates. You know, from our last meeting, we had our Memorial Day Parade on May 26th. The weather was great. I think the overall parade, everything went well. We had a good crowd lined up on the street. And then, you know, it followed up with the ceremony from the veterans as well as the fire department. So thank you to everyone that participated, came out to support the Memorial Day parade in town. So this past Friday, we actually had Little Falls Night at the New Jersey Jackals game up at Yogi Berra Stadium. It was a partnership between the Little Falls Athletic Club, the Alliance for a Better Community, as well as the town, bringing together, you know, residents to celebrate Little Falls. The great thing about the event was members of the LFAC sports team were able to march on the field prior to the start of it. And then we also had some of the players that were baseball buddies. They were acknowledged with some of the players as they were introduced. Our council president Scoba threw out the first pitch. And in the words of Bob Euchre, it was just a bit outside. But it was a great effort. He had his glove. He was ready to go. I was taking a picture. I almost got hit, so. But overall, it was great, too, because the Little Falls Fire Department Color Guard was there. They also assisted with the fireworks that took place after the game. We had a couple local residents. One sang the national anthem. Another one sang God Bless America. We even had a brawl during the game, which was, you know, it was two technically.
Not residents.
Yes, not residents, actual players on the field. And the game was capped off very nicely because the Jackals hit a 3-run walk-off homer to win the game. But it was a nice event. It was great to see everyone from the town come out. I've been in contact with the Jackals general manager. They said it was the highest number of attendees they had this season. He's just trying to tabulate the official numbers based on online sales and, you know, ticket paying folks at the game. He'll get that to me. But like I said, it was a good event. We're looking forward to doing the next one. A couple other updates. You know, with the Boy Scouts, they've been working with our DPW superintendent to paint the storage unit that is now residing in the DPW yard. I know the folks from the troop came recently to start painting a side of it, and they're working out the details with Mr. Simone to just finish the full painting of the actual facility so it'll look nice where it is right now in the DPW yard. As I briefly touched on, you know, with the transportation stuff when it came up earlier, we're going to meet later this month just to go over some current updates, and we're also looking to meet, as I mentioned earlier, with the mayor and others so we can address some of the local and county issues when it comes to speeding and some other topics of interest. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councilman, for that thorough report. Councilman Leese.
This morning I attended the Passaic County Senior Services meeting, as I have been doing for many years. Every Passaic County town or city has appointed representatives, as I am here. We meet in the County of Passaic Department of Senior Services in Totowa, located on River Road. Information related to senior-age people from the county or the state was discussed and then followed up with discussions that were repeated later in the towns. Having been in these meetings, I can honestly state that our experiences here are doing very well in Little Falls, and we will continue to work to maintain our experiences for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Coordinator.
What I'd like to do is announce and remind everybody that this Thursday, July 14th, which is Flag Day, we will be having a block party on Patterson Avenue. And the Township is doing this in association with the Little Falls Business Association. Patterson Avenue, this is our second annual one, actually, and last year it was really a big success. I think it was our first one. We were all kind of surprised about how many people came out. So Patterson Avenue from Main Street to Maple Avenue gets closed off. All of our restaurants are participating or have a food truck. There'll be music, there'll be face painting. ABC is doing arts and crafts. There's going to be the woman who does the balloons, hula hoop contests, Jack the Jackal is coming, so there'll be a lot going on. There's going to be live music as well. So tell your neighbors and friends. Last time, whole families came out. It was really wonderful. It starts at 6 o'clock, so I hope to see everybody there.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Sieber?
Thank you. So with the Municipal Alliance, we've had some great events recently, and we have some more in the making that I'd like to report on. So on June 14th, we are going to be participating in Day of Prevention at William Patterson University. This is held by the Passaic County Municipal Alliance, and there we'll be having a table and we'll be presenting all the events and work that we've done here in the town of Little Falls. And then also we will be able to share with other towns and see what they're doing. So we're excited to be participating in this. On June 20th, we will also be hosting a photo booth for 8th graders during their end of school year party. The photo booth will be free to all the students, and we'll also be holding a picture frame, which the students can stand in that states, "Picture me drug free." So that will be very popular with the 8th graders, I'm sure. And then also, as everybody's aware, we have this 4th of July street fair here in town. The Municipal Alliance will have a booth, so I really encourage everybody to stop by. We'll have some free giveaways and possibly some fun games, so please do stop by the booth on July 4th. And then we're also going to be participating in National Night Out, which is August 7th, in conjunction with our police department. So the police department will be hosting, it's really a police community event, which is an event to really strengthen the relationships between our police departments and the community. So we will be participating in that. And then something that we're working on currently that's just in the early planning stages is for in October. It is an event that was held by a different town at Passaic Valley High School last year. This year, we're going to be participating in it. It's called Hidden in Plain Sight, and we will be doing it in conjunction with all 3 towns. And what it is we set up there is a bedroom that is set up, and it's encouragement for parents to come in to tour this bedroom so that they can see where teens could possibly hide drugs or paraphernalia, so they can be educated on what is happening in possibly their own homes. So that is something that we are working on in conjunction with the 3 towns to be hosted at the Passaic Valley High School. So more to come in the upcoming months on that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Simone, can you tell us what's going on Route 23?
The state has finally started to do work in Little Falls on the road reconstruction project for Route 23. Today they were out there starting to cut the roadways so they can start installing some new curbing and new sidewalk. You might get some complaints from some of the residents. It's very mishmashed. It's not continuous. It's a piece here, it's a piece there. It's not the greatest. I still need to try and get a plan so that we'll have something here at the town hall for residents to look at. I did speak to the contractor, and I'm going to try and talk to the state. There are some areas where I feel that the sidewalks need to be replaced. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try and talk to them. But their plan is they are going to be replacing all the handicap ramps along Route 23. Like I said, some sidewalks, some curbing. They're going to work down the south side of the road, and then they're going to work back up the north side. Once that's completed, from what I understand, is they are going to start in Verona on Route 23, and they're going to start with the milling and paving and work their way down through Little Falls right to Wayne. So that'll be going on probably during the summer.
Thank you, Mr. Simone. At the mayor's request, he has asked myself to look into the police station to get back with a report. Today we were in the old police station with another engineer that specializes in old buildings, Mr. Damarecki from Mass Construction. And at the end of that tour and survey, I asked them the question on how much it would cost to refurbish the old police station, and his estimates was about $1.6 million. So I just want to report that back to you, Mayor, and we'll wait for your decision on what would be the next move here. I just want to tell a quick story. My daughter went to recycling with some papers in a box, and unfortunately the box I gave her fell apart, so she was quite upset. The papers went all over the parking lot. But quickly, a DPW, one of your staff, came out with a broom and pan and picked up all the papers and put them in the recycle bin for her, and she was quite happy that occurred. I have gone to the DPW with a bag of cans, and they fell out, and I quite didn't get that same service. I quite didn't get somebody running out with a dustpan and pan, sweeping up my cans and putting them in the correct bin there, Mr. Simone. So just wanted to point that out. Have a motion and a second to open to the public comment for agenda items only.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the Council President. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the Council President.
The podium is open.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Arnold Karotkin, still at 181 Long Hill Road, Little Falls, New Jersey. 2 questions. One, Council President Scope, I was curious, what does it mean to refurbish the police station? You said it would cost $1.6 million to refurbish. What does that entail?
Today, the inspection, basically the walls were sound and everything else would have to be redone.
To make it usable for whatever is...
Space, correct.
The second is more of a, well, I don't know. I was pleased to hear that the Boy Scouts were engaging in community projects, community activities, and painting some structure. I don't know whose purview it would be to look at, maybe DPW, but the flagpole in front of the Civic Center is in desperate need of repainting, so if someone can look at that, I don't expect the Boy Scouts to climb to the top of it, but it should be looked at. Thank you.
Mr. Simone, can you put that on your agenda to take a look at that and take care of that? Mayor, do you have any comments at this time? Okay. Seeing no one else come forward, can I have a motion to close to the public?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We do have an executive session concerning litigation. I anticipate about 10 to 12 minutes. Thank you. No. It's for information. Good question.
We have to come